Om Agnatimirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Taralaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantam Anapetyam Apetya Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Achuhava Putreti tam mayatayo tarvo binidustam sarvabhutam munimanatoshmi Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay Shiptascha karma ditaranga madhye Kripa mayitvam sharanam prapana Vrinde namaste charana ravindam Bhajami radham aravinda netram Smarami radham madhurashmitasyam Vadami radham karuna varadram tato mamanasti katyena chapi. I first of all offer millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, Dandavat pranams. So, continuing with our study of Sri Shikshastakam. We've reached today the 4th verse. And I think now that we're practically halfway through, it's a very good idea for us all to chant together the Shikshastakam prayers. This will create an impression, a sanskar, where we can remember these prayers more easily. Okay, you all have in your songbooks? Do you have a songbook? Job, you want to just get some songbooks from the cupboard, please? Perhaps you should have done this every single day. Oh, you came this morning. We should have done this every day so that we can become more and more familiar with the verses. Because we want to see today what is the nature of the current of these 8 verses. Where is it flowing? What are the stages? What are the steps in each of the verses? It's very progressive. And I'll spend a few minutes this morning just showing the ladder, so to speak, or this staircase, where we're going to this final 8th verse. Because now we're halfway through. Tomorrow we actually come to the verse that describes the Jiva's Swarup. This is very confidential, and this is protected in the center of this Astakam. Astakam means 8 verses. Very often we see this, like for example the Bhakti chapters are protected by the Karma Yoga section and the Gyan Yoga section in the Bhagavad Gita. Those special 7 chapters in the center are about bhakti. We also see in Jaivadhamma the verses about Nam, 23, 24, and 25. They're right in the very center, in the very heart. They're protected on either side. We see also in our Guruvastakam that we sing every single day, this 5th and 6th verse. Radhika Madhurya Madhurya Lila Guna Rupananam. These 2 verses, this verse, Shri Radhika, this is about Raganuga Bhakti. This is what this verse means in Guruvastakam. The first 4 verses are something of our external service to Guru. In that Guruvastakam, there's Jiva Tattva, Gora Tattva, Vigraha Tattva, then Prasad Tattva, these 4 verses, and then you get to the 5th and 6th verse in the Guruvastakam, and you have the very confidential topic of Raganuga. That Guru is very intensely serving Radha and Krishna at every moment. This is about Raganuga Bhakti. And the next verse, Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Siddhai, this is showing Guru's Swarup. What is Guru doing? He's in the Kunja. So this 6th verse, 5th and 6th verse are very confidential, and they're protected in the center. So similarly, tomorrow, our verse is the Swarup of the Jiva, this Kinkari, Ainanda Tunuja Kinkari. This is tomorrow. I am a maidservant of Krishna. This is a very special description of the Jiva's identity. But today we've come to the 4th verse, just prior to that. So I'd like that we all can, when you're singing kirtan, I'll tell you a secret. If any of you want to sing kirtan regularly, there is a very simple secret to leading or singing kirtan. And the secret is to listen. You listen to the response. Whoever is singing, he's listening carefully to the response and becoming inspired, and then he's singing more inspired. And then the listeners are listening to him and they become more inspired. So the kirtan builds like this. So in this way, we should loudly participate and loudly chant this kirtan or any kirtans, because this is the method of kirtan really. If someone is singing and they're only thinking, oh, how sweet do I sing, what sort of kirtan is that? But if the singer is listening carefully to everybody else and he's responding according to their enthusiasm, because as a group singing, there's always some who are enthusiastic, even if some aren't enthusiastic, so you're getting enthusiasm. And then the singer, he responds more enthusiastically like that. It's a build-up. Okay, so we all sing together, just a very simple chant. Cheto dapanam majanam bhavamahadavagni varpanam. No, you all have to sing together. Gurudev said, listen, hold it. No, some of you are not doing. Gurudev said, when there's chanting and singing, all sins come out. And if you don't sing, all those sins will come into you. He said like this. If there's chanting going on and singing, and you're singing, all of the negative things will come out of the heart. But if you don't participate or sing, all those negative things will drop into you. So she's just going to get a songbook. Okay. Now, as we go through, try and remember what we've already discussed. We went through these 7 jewels that will be manifested by Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan. The first verse is a summary. Then the second verse, we discussed a couple of days ago, is saying about the glories of Nam. It's saying how Krishna himself makes himself available in many different forms in his different names. And Nija Sharava Shaktis, he's invested all his energies in his names. This is the second verse. But I am so unfortunate, I have no taste for these names. So in this second verse, it's like a dual thing. It's proclaiming the glory of Krishna's names simultaneously as my unfortunate nature that I don't have a taste for that. Then the third verse we discussed yesterday at length, this Trinada Pisunichena. What are these qualities that give us the qualification, Kirtanya Sadahari, to chant? What gives us the qualification is this quality of humility. This verse is describing how to chant Hare Krishna. What is the process? Today we're going to discuss desire. What is my core desire? Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim. First of all, this verse is broken into 2. There's what is called the negative aspect and the positive aspect. Sometimes if you're describing something, you might, for example, describe to a blind man what the sun looks like, and you might say, well, it's not dark. He'll understand that. He'll understand what darkness is, and then you can begin to describe what is brightness in the sunlight. So there is, it's called Tatashta Lakshan in Sanskrit and Swarup Lakshan, 2 considerations. So in many of the verses there's these two considerations. So certainly in this fourth verse there's these two considerations. But this fourth verse is about desire. The fifth verse is going to be about the swarup of the jiva as kinkari. The seventh verse is about the sixth verse is about the external symptoms of bhav manifesting, these anubhavs, tears, horripilation, etc. So now from this fourth verse today, we come into these higher levels the day after tomorrow when we come into this bhav platform of Nayanam, Galada Shudarya. And then from that verse, we go to the internal symptoms of bhav. This vipralamba bhav is described. And then in the eighth verse is prem itself. So I'll discuss this morning in more detail so you can get each verse capsulated in like a sentence of actually what it's defining, where it's going. And then from there, we can sort of spread out like where is the main street, and then there are other streets coming off it, so to speak. Okay, so we'll chant all together. Cheto dapanam majanam bhava mahadavagniya nivatranam shreyam karaiva chandrika vitaranam vidyavadujivanam anandam buddhi vardhanam pratiputam purnam mitasvadanam sarvatma sampadam parampatayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam nam namakari bahudar nija sharva shaktis tatrapita nyamita smarane nakalaha etadrishi tava kripa bhagavan maipi duradaivam idrisham ihajinu nanurag Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi suhishana amanina manadena kirtanya sarahari nadanam najanam nasundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye Mama Jamani Jamanishvare Bhavatad Bhakti Ahoitiki Tvai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishvame Bhuvam Buddho Kripaya Tava Padapankaja Stita Duli Sadrishim Vachintaya Nayanam Garada Shrudarya Vadanam Gadgada Rudaya Gira Pulake Nichitam Vapu Kada Tavanama grihane vavishyate yugayetam namishena chakshusam parzayetam sunyayetam jagat sarvam govinda virahime aslisya vapadaratam panashtomam adarshanam mamam hatam korotuva yata tata vavidatu lampato mat prananatas sa eva napraha. Okay, so this is all essentially glorification of the process of Nam that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has benedicted us with in this age. So now let me just describe a little bit this ladder in the verses so you can see that. Then we'll come back to this fourth verse. So the first verse is a summary, glorifying what is about to be explained in the different verses. So it's a summary, and it's showing what is going to be glorified by taking the name. And then the second verse, as I've just described, is glorifying the many names of Krishna. Bahuda. Bahuda means many names. And it's saying they're invested with so much power. But it's saying that I'm so unfortunate that I have no taste for this. So this verse is an appreciation of name and an appreciation of my own wretched condition. Both, simultaneously. I appreciate the height of name, but I am so unfortunate. In other words, I might be asking the question, well, this is impossible for me to realize these jewels. So then the third verse is the process how to realize those jewels. And this verse is the process for our sadhana. If it's constantly empowered and enthused with a mood of humility, deep humility. I described yesterday, I read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, how this verse manifested, how Mahaprabhu's heart was melting more and more himself personally. Mahaprabhu has come as his own devotee. He's come in such a humble way personally. He hasn't come as the Supreme Lord, like in his Krishna avatar. He came as Krishna. In Vrindavan, of course, he was not like Supreme Lord, but still he was Krishna. But in the avatar of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's in Navadvip, no one even knows at any time that he's actually that Supreme Lord. It's only when he goes to Puridam that Aishwarya, or that mood of him being the Lord, becomes manifest. But this is just in itself such a humble stance for Mahaprabhu, understand, is actually reciprocating with Sri Radha. And he's taking her Bhavan Kanti. And part of that mood is her extreme humility. He's rolling on the dust. He's calling out Radha and Krishna. He's saying, Duradaivam, Idrisham, Ihajani, Nanurag, I have no love, I'm wretched, I'm fallen. This is Krishna himself saying like this. This is part of Sri Radha's moods. She is so extraordinarily humble. She controls that person who is controlling all the worlds. But she's controlling it by her humility. We described this yesterday. This quality in womanhood of chastity and humility is so powerful that it can even control the Supreme Lord entirely. So never neglect our own, if you're in a female body, these qualities in particular are very much easier to cultivate than in the male body. In the male body, very often we're called to take all kinds of responsibility or leadership, generally speaking, more than women. Of course, now in this age, everything's changing around and is upside down. But traditionally, the male would be more in the front and the female would be in the back. And this would give her an opportunity to more deeply develop these very special qualities. So, this nature of Mahaprabhu. And now, so we've discussed the third verse. So now, today, we'll come to our topic today, this fourth verse. Nadanam, najanam, na sundarim. That I don't want wealth. I don't want fame. I don't want followers. This, as I've just described, is called the tatashta lakshan. It's the negative aspect of what I'm wanting to develop in my positive vision. How to develop the positive mood. So we are born of desire. Understand that when the jiva was in the body of Mahavishnu, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati describes we were in a mood of shantaras, neutrality. We didn't want to go up to Goloka Vrindavan, and we didn't want to come down to the material world. We were just steady, you can say, like a stone, almost like impersonal. I don't want to go either way. Just just in that one position. That was our condition in the body of Mahavishnu. But that position will not give us the opportunity to go to Krishna, back to Krishna, in that place. You can only be in that place, like the Mayavads today, they try and find that place of just nothingness. That nothingness, the Buddhists also, that's a place of no desire. It's like the philosophy of the Buddhists is that they try to annihilate all of their desires. They come to a place of complete nothingness. That's the position. of the Mayavad or impersonalist. So that was our condition of consciousness previously to coming into this world. That's why it's very easy for us to actually go back into that road, back into that impersonal mood, because we've already had a taste of it. We've already had a taste of that nothingness, so to speak. This is how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he describes this condition in the body of Mahavishnu. We only come into this world to learn one thing, which is relationship. We learn to how, first of all, relationship with our mother, then our father, brothers, sisters, etc., family, country, whatever. But we're going through all these different types of relationship because it's only within relationship that we can find this quality of complete affection or love, this attraction. It manifests itself within relationships. The first stage of our bhakti is called Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha means relationship. What is my relationship with Krishna? What is my relationship with this material world? What is my relationship with other jivas? All of this knowledge is called Sambandha Gyan, relationship. It's about relationship. So when we come into this world, we have to learn about relationship. We naturally learn about relationship. We start to learn about this sweetness of affection. And gradually, through the layers of material conditioning, if we're fortunate enough, we come to a place where we consider what is transcendental relationships. And then we start to develop our exclusive relationship with the Lord. But this is the process, this is how we got into this world. It came from a lack of desire. But when we enter this world, we are made of nothing except desire. Everything we do is fueled by our desire. Whatever we want, ultimately, we can attain. If you ultimately want to be a very wealthy person, you can figure out how to do that, if your karma allows. If you want to tread this path enthusiastically of Krishna consciousness, you can do that too. It all depends on the resolute nature of our personal desire. So what is our desire? This verse today is about that desire. This is the fuel that will propel us on the path. What is our desire? So first of all, the negative aspect. My desire is not for wealth, Mahaprabhu is saying. My desire is not for fame, he's saying. My desire is not for followers. This prestige, again, that we discussed yesterday at length, must be purified. We can never purify it by our own efforts. Impossible. It's like ingrained within us, within the material consciousness, to want to be honored. It's the antithesis of wanting to serve Krishna. It's the complete opposite of that. This is our predicament. That is there because we made offense. That's the reason why this negative aspect exists within us. Initially, Krishna was there. There was a mood of the Lord's presence. We turned away from that. It's called vimukh. We turned away from Krishna's presence and we were attracted by the material energy. This is offense. Imagine if Padabja Prabhu, he's talking to me and I just completely ignore him and I listen over here. How is he going to feel? He's going to feel some slight, some hurt. But what to speak of Krishna? The hurt, or not the hurt, but the awareness of the offense is so much, billions of times greater, because Krishna is described as Lavanga. He's the embodiment and repository of all beauty in existence. And we turned away from that to look at this stool pit of the material world, because I thought I could control in there. So I looked to what is the result? We've described before. What is the result of offense? Who remembers what I said? This is like an equation, yeah. Yes. So as soon as that offense is committed to the Lord by turning away from Him, all these material desires gallop into the heart. Therefore, I get covered over by these material desires. How astonishing it is that Krishna should arrange the world like this, that we entirely suffer anything at all is totally due to our own separatist mentality, our own desires. That's what's causing us. Any sort of suffering at all is all caused entirely by our desires. You might say, oh, well, I'm sick. How is that caused by my desire? That sickness is caused by our previous karma. Our previous karmas are a collection of all our various desires from birth, from so many births, collected together to create the karma of this birth. I've described a couple of times how there are 13 witnesses seeing every single act we perform. Chitragutta, he's writing down all of these desires that we have separate from Krishna. And Krishna is so compassionate, even in a material sense. He wants to fulfill all of your desires. If we have the slightest sense of desire at the time of leaving this body, that desire will have to be fulfilled if it's a material desire. I remember once there was one Russian lady, actually, she was leaving her body up in ISKCON many, many years ago, and she'd had cancer, and more or less she had been fasting on a very, very thin diet, practically nothing. And she was just preparing for her final stages of leaving the body. And I remember asking her, you know, do you have any desires left? And she said, no, I have no desires to enjoy anything in the material world at all, except for one. I would just love to have a pakora. And, you know, I thought, oh my God, because actually if you have a pakora, then you want some sauce on top of it, and you probably want something else with it. And that's the beginning of it. And then it just goes on and on and on from there. Just from one pakora, you've got to have a human body to be able to digest the pakora, etc., 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 etc. So the whole thing may start from a very small point and then just gallop into a huge, you know, another birth or two or three. So how to dispel, or we cannot dispel this desire. We're made of desire. It's part of us. But we can purify that desire and put it onto a track of desiring to serve Guru, Vaishnavas and Sri Krishna. We can purify that desire. We can turn that desire around. This is our process. This is what we're endeavoring to do, to bring that rampant material desire into order, to control that desire, to lead it to the right place. So we've discussed at length these various anarthas, etc. They're caused by the pushings of our desires. It's like Rupa Goswami says in the Upadeshamrita, the first verse, Vacho Vegam. What is it? Vacho Vegam, Udara Parsta Vegam, Jiva Vegam. Vacho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam. Yes, this mind, anger, etc. The tongue, belly, genitals. This pushing, it's forcefully pushing us towards trying to exploit the material energy. And it's only with knowledge, with vidya, that we can start to turn the energy that it's going in that wrong way, that desire, to start to purify that. We must have this knowledge. This knowledge is essential. Sometimes people, they say, oh, why do we need so much gyan? Just give me Radha and Krishna in the kunj. But has all the darkness been purified out of their hearts completely? It's by the torchlight of knowledge that this darkness becomes purified. So now we're hearing where to place our desire. So it's saying, I don't want this fame or adoration or distinction. I don't want followers. I don't want prestige. These are very, very deep, subtle things. We cannot purify these things by ourselves. So in the first verse it's saying what's empowering all this is Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. It's this holy name is so remarkable. The holy name and Krishna are non-different. When we take this name on the end of our tongue, when it dances on the end of the tongue, Rupa Goswami has sung, He wants to have thousands of tongues to hear that name, or thousands of ears to hear that name, thousands of tongues to vibrate that name. This is such a powerful experience for the jiva. His whole body ultimately is going to be bathed by this name, and it will purify this core desire so that I can bring my desire round to focus on bringing pleasure to the Lord, bringing sweetness to the Lord. So we've heard the wonderful desires of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his 3 unfulfilled desires in Vrindavan that he manifested himself to fulfill in this world. And when he's speaking this Shikshastakam, he has practically reached the climax of fulfilling those 3 desires. I've discussed quite at length the first desire, the Mahima, the glories of Radha. And the second desire also I've spoken about quite a lot, how Krishna sees himself in the reflection. But this third desire, how to understand this third desire, what is that happiness and what is that sweetness of Krishna's love? To understand this will help us to purify our desires when we realize the sweetness of Krishna's love for Radha. So we understand that Krishna is Atmaram and Aptakam. This means all his desires are fulfilled and satisfied. He's completely Atmaram. He doesn't want for anything. He has no necessity at all. But he can be inspired by prem, by pure prem. He becomes inspired by the gopis' anurag, sweetness for him. Krishna has manifested his Shakti, and he's developed, or he has so much devotion to his Shakti. Krishna is Shaktiman, and Radha is Shakti. Krishna is the possessor of that potency, but he has allowed himself to be possessed by that potency, by his own potency, by Sri Radha. Just like yesterday I told you about the flame of the candle. The flame is always independent from the heat. This consideration I described yesterday, these 2 stages, one is tattva vichar and the other is rasa vichar. In the consideration of tattva vichar, the flame is always prominent, but in rasa vichar, actually the heat overwhelms the flame. The heat has taken control over the flame. This is remarkable. So Krishna, he allows this because of the depth of Sri Radha's love for him. We see that when Krishna is in the Ras Leela, dancing with 350 million gopis, they're dancing in complete abandoned ecstasy. And then Sri Radha, her man begins to manifest. It's described that sometimes Radha's man has a reason and sometimes it has no reason. It just comes. So her man manifests and she leaves that Rasa Leela. And when she leaves, the prem of 350 million gopis immediately flows strongly towards Krishna entirely. And it's described that Krishna, he walks like an elephant away from that Rasa Leela, away from the gopis' prem at that time. Only an elephant can walk upstream. So Krishna, he's walking like an elephant upstream against this rush of prem that's coming from all the gopis to go and satisfy Sri Radha's man. Sometimes it's described that this man is like jealous anger, but it's neither. The reason why I'm discussing this is to show Radha's happiness and sweetness. When we appreciate this, then that positive focus can manifest in our hearts, and these negative aspects of these lower desires will automatically be replaced by the positive sweetness of understanding the love that Krishna has for Radha. So this man is what I'm discussing just now. Normally, in the stages of prem, it goes prem, sneha, man, pranaya, rag, and anurag. Those are the normal stages. These are transcendental stages of love. In the English language, we only have one word for love. But if you look in the index or the introduction to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Hridai Bon Maharaj's book, it's a very beautiful hardbound book, there in the introduction, all of these stages are very clearly described and defined. You should see if you can find a copy for that. It's very interesting. Anyway, these are the stages outside of Braj. That this pranaya, I described a little bit of what pranaya means. We have to know something of these stages of love and sweetness to actually get the full import of this verse. If I just speak entirely the mechanics and only the structure, you're not really going to get any juice. But if you start to appreciate at some point the absolute sweetness that is contained within the verses, then some real enthusiasm and desire will manifest in the heart, and then all success will come. So, outside of Braj, the stages go from sneha, which means melting of the heart, and then this man. Man can mean a contrary mood, and that man is sometimes interpreted as jealous anger. Lakshmi, she doesn't have man. She has Rodra ras, which is anger. Sometimes she has anger. It's not man, it's different. And the queens of Dwarka, the man that they display is also different to the man that is displayed in Braj. The man in Braj is so special. In Braj, this stage of pranaya. Pranaya I described the other day. It's when two lovers feel completely equal, totally equal, like they're looking at each other in the mirror. They feel no difference between them. They're one in mind and heart and body and sentiments and everything. They're completely the same. It's described that if you're looking at yourself naked in the mirror, it's like that kind of inhibition between you. There's just no obstruction in the love. This is the stage of pranaya. The love is so intense. Now normally, this stage, very high stage, comes after the stage of man. And perhaps we can relate materially to that. If this stage of man exhibits itself in material world, something of a angry mood or a leftist mood or a contrary mood. So if you're in some sort of relationship and you have some sort of great difficulty with each other and you have a huge argument, then perhaps after the argument you're even closer together than you were previously. Can you see that? So it's a progression. It's gone from that stage to a higher stage. It's not like, it's a little bit similar to this. These stages are necessary to reach the higher stages. Now this stage of pranaya, it comes after the stage of man, outside of Braj. I'm going to say all this once, and then you can ask me some questions. And I'll say it again and again and again if you need me to say it many times. It's not so difficult to grasp. You just have to listen carefully. So outside of Braj, it goes from man to pranaya. Inside Braj, between Radha and Krishna, it's different. There's first pranaya. First is this stage of I am one with mind and heart and everything with my beloved. And from that stage, it condenses and it becomes Prem Kutila, it's called. It's a stage of love called Prem Kutila, Kutila means very crooked. Like Jyotila's daughter is called Kutila, means very crooked intelligence. But Prem Kutila means that the lover and beloved, they act in what might seem to be contradictory ways to love. Radha will say, go away. What she really means is, please quickly come here. Krishna will also perhaps ignore Radha. What he really wants to do is catch Radha's attention. So it will display itself in contrary ways. This is called Prem Kutila. And this is the beginning of the man in Braj. So this man in Braj is very powerful. And from that man in Braj, Pranaya was previously, and then is man, and then again is Pranaya in Braj. So in Braj you have Sneha, Pranaya, Man, then Pranaya again, this stage. If we haven't heard these topics so many times, it might be difficult to first just catch them. But just be patient and just go through it. So this stage of Man, only Sri Radha can manifest pure Man. Pure Man means that I will stay in this contrary mood until my beloved breaks the mood. I am so confident that my lover must break my Man. Chandravali cannot go into Man like Sri Radha. She's not as confident of Krishna's love for her as is Sri Radha. Sri Radha knows that if Krishna cannot live without Radha. She's so assured of that she can go into Man endlessly. She doesn't go into Man endlessly, but she has that mood that she will, because she knows for sure that Krishna must come and break it. Whereas others don't have that absolute conviction at all. It's like in Dwarka, for example, with the queens of Dwarka. Krishna, he's in Dwarka, and Sri Radha, a mood rises in her heart called Mohan Bhav. This Mohan Bhav is so high mood. Radha is in Vrindavan. She's feeling this intense separation from Krishna. The nature of this Mohan Bhav is that Krishna himself will faint if Radha is experiencing that in Vrindavan. So Radha is experiencing this. Krishna, he faints in Dwarka. Somehow he knows that Radha is in that intense mood. Then Baladev Prabhu, he thinks that Krishna may suddenly run back to Braj when he comes out of this swoon. So they quickly got Vishvakarma to make a beautiful Nava Vrindavan in Dwarka. They made a complete replica of Vrindavan very quickly in Dwarka. And there was a Murti form of Mother Yashoda, a Murti form of Radharani, the cows, etc., all in Murti forms. And then Baladev, he dresses Krishna in his cowherd outfit, and he himself puts on his cowherd outfit. Then he quickly wakes Krishna. Oh, Kanaya, quickly, come for the cows are calling you, quickly. Krishna, he immediately jumps up, sees Baladev dressed like this, sees himself dressed like this. Immediately, he's back in Vrindavan. He runs out with Baladev into this artificial Vrindavan, this Nava Vrindavan that Vishvakarma has made. And he runs in there, and then he sees Mother Yashoda. She's holding a basket of ladus. He just runs to Mother Yashoda, grabs some ladus and keeps running. He doesn't even notice that she's a Murti. But then he comes to Sri Radha, and he smiles at Radha, but she doesn't make any acknowledgement back. And immediately Krishna thinks, oh, Sri Radha must be in Man. And then he thinks, what did I do to make that Man manifest in her? And then he thinks, maybe she loves me so much, maybe she even comes in my dreams. I had this dream, and he's speaking out loud now. He's saying, I had this dream where I was in a fortress in the middle of the ocean, and I had 16,108 queens. And I didn't like that dream at all. And he's saying like this, but the queens, they're all hiding behind the bushes, and they all hear Krishna say like this, that he didn't like this dream of being in this palace in the middle of the ocean. And immediately when Satyabhama, she hears Krishna speak like this, she just goes straight back to her palace, takes all her jewelry off, goes into the anger room and starts banging her fists on the floor like this in complete anger. This is a type of man. But what happens when Krishna comes out of that swoon and realizes actually what has happened, and again he comes back into his identity as Dwarkadish? He comes to the palace of Satyabhama, and he stands just in the doorway, and he asks the servant, "Oh, tell Satyabhama to come here." The servant says, "Oh no, my lord, Satyabhama is in the angry room." Krishna says, "Tell the son of Satyajit, the daughter of Satyajit, to come here immediately. Otherwise, she can just leave me forever." That's all he has to say to the servant. Then the servant relays this message to Satyabhama. Immediately Satyabhama gets up, bathes, puts on all her shringar dress, etc., and then comes very meekly in front of Krishna. So this is nothing like the man of Sri Radha. And this is the highest man that is exhibited in Dwarka. So the man of Radha is exceptional. And this can only manifest because Radha is so aware of the sweetness of Krishna's love for her. It's this sweetness that Krishna himself wants to taste in the form of Mahaprabhu. It's this exceptional sweetness that Mahaprabhu wants to taste. We describe this third desire, the happiness that Radha experiences from receiving the sweetness of Krishna's love. So this, what I've just described, is a little bit about the happiness and sweetness of Radha's love. So it goes on extensively like this, descriptions. We can speak more this evening if you like to hear that. But essentially try to understand the sweetness of Krishna's love that Sri Radha is receiving. And this is what Krishna himself wants to taste. So we see that Mahaprabhu, he has these desires. Now we also are loaded with desires. I described the other day how in the body of the human species we have more desires than we can ever fulfill in this body. We can never fulfill all our desires. And you see materially how someone who has so much resources, wealth, etc., it's a phenomenon that they just want more and more and more and more and more. They're never ever satisfied. It's just like a burning fire. It almost as if you fulfill some of these desires, then it gets more blazing. Then the fire becomes more strong, more strong. It's almost impossible to satisfy. You cannot satisfy. I described when we talked about this Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, these two forces that were crashing together in the heart of the jiva. One was that he had unlimited desires, and the other was that he knew he wasn't going to have enough time in this one birth to fulfill all those desires. So this creates a friction. So these desires recognize and acknowledge the immensity of our material desires, and then pray deeply to Nam to purify those desires. Now, in this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's specifying this Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundaram. But he does not desire wealth or followers, friends and relatives, nor mundane knowledge. This is not our desire. I've explained 4 or 5 times already that we're not jnanis. We're hearing what is pure vidya, what is pure knowledge, to dispel the avidya in the heart, to dispel our ignorance. But we're not trying to collect this knowledge. We're not looking to increase our knowledge. We're looking to use the knowledge to purify the ignorance. When the ignorance is purified, then I can enter the lila of Radha and Krishna. In my heart can go into these leelas of what is Braja Prem. What is the nature of that Braj Prem? What is the nature of this crooked love that I just described, this Prem Kutila? What is its, how is it? How does it manifest in Radha and Krishna's pastimes? So like this, much more inspiration and desire comes once these impurities have been dispelled from the heart. So, so this verse represents the stage of ruchi. The previous verse, Trinadapi Sanichena, this was nishta. And now we come to ruchi. Some taste must be there because the lower tastes are going away. Mahaprabhu is saying, I don't want this. That must mean that a higher taste is manifesting. That higher taste in spiritual language is called ruchi. That taste for hearing the sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna, for hearing the pastimes of Mahaprabhu, to entering into that loving world, this ruchi, this transcendental taste. And I described that there are two sorts. Who remembers the two sorts of ruchi? Manohar, you will remember, because you helped me with the pronunciation. Remember? Apekshana and anupekshana. These two types of ruchi. You said. Yes, you were saying. Who remembers the two different types of ruchi? It's important to know. One taste is the taste that comes from the recognition of my own illumination, my own soul's sweetness. That is one type of taste. It's a very beautiful taste. When you start to make some connection with your swarup, when actually the sweetness of our own souls starts to manifest, when we're tasting some real pleasure that now my mental faculties have become calm and steady, I'm now able to live in the mode of goodness much more strongly, I'm not influenced so much by negative energies, I have some strength, etc. There's confidence that can come from just touching the soul a little bit. This is the first type of taste, a taste of an awareness of my own beauty. And it's a very dangerous place unless it's not quickly progressed to the next stage of seeing the object of the taste. Unless the object of the taste, Sri Krishna and Radha, are not being pushed into the front of our consciousnesses, then we're going to sit on this lower step of just enjoying my own beauty. Because of course we have beauty. We are pure spirit soul. Absolutely. The nature of spirit is utterly full of knowledge and full of bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. This is the nature of the soul. So of course it's blissful. And as this ruchi, or as my practice rises, then a taste for that will naturally manifest. Yeah. You had a question? Huh? Yes. Yes. So one is yes. One is my own taste that will depend on the sweetness of the kirtan, the taste of the prasad, etc., etc., on the external aspects, my own appreciation. You understand? And the higher taste, anna apekshani, it's called Vastu, Vaishishya, Apekshani, and Vastu, Vaishishya, Anupekshani. This is the terms of these two. Vastu, Vaishishya, Anupekshani. Manohar, you said these the other day for me, remember? I was having difficulty just saying the Sanskrit, and you said it because your Austrian tongue can get around it more easily. And you said it perfectly. But these two types of taste, essentially, as I described initially, one is coming from a taste for my own soul, and one is coming from a taste for the object of my devotion. If it's a taste for my own soul, then I'm very concerned that the sound is very nice during the kirtan. There's no harsh bells going on that's going to deafen my eardrums, etc. Otherwise I can't enter into the kirtan. There's so many material considerations before I can have my full-blown spiritual experience. Whereas if the object of ruchi is fully present in understanding Krishna and Radha, then it doesn't really matter how is the kirtan, what sort of voice the kirtanier is singing in, what sort of melody, etc. It's not very important. You understand? So this verse is about the stage of ruchi. So try and see the ladder in all these verses. Yesterday it was the stage of nishta. Before that it's the stage of anartha nivritti. This second verse is anartha nivritti. This stage, Trinadapi Sanishna, is nishta. Today is ruchi. Tomorrow is asakti. The next day is bhav, then vipralamba bhav, and then prem. Okay? See the ladder, see the progression. It's all a progression. So how to purify these desires for fame, for accumulating knowledge? Why do we want to accumulate knowledge? What is the purpose of our knowledge? We want to accumulate knowledge so that I can clear these obstacles and rapidly go towards my service to Radha and Krishna. This is the only reason why I want this knowledge. There's no other reason. If I want knowledge so I can say so many verses sitting in a big assembly and impressing everyone, how difficult is that going to be for my bhakti unless I'm being given a lot of mercy by Guru to be able to do like that? For most people, we'll become very bewildered by the honor that people make towards us. Sometimes we have to accept that, like I described yesterday, the example of Madhavendra Puri. He didn't want any of that. That's not our goal. That's not where we're looking for. If we're looking for that validation, or if we're looking for that honor by others, if that's the priority in our mind, that's very unfortunate. We have to attend to that. We have to look towards the object of our practice, the sadhya, the goal. You understand? Okay. I'll just read you these parts that is spoken in the Chaitanya Charitamrita just prior to Mahaprabhu saying this verse, to give you a broader picture of the verse. It's described, this is a couple of verses before, it's describing, while the Lord spoke, his humility increased, and he began to pray to Krishna for pure devotion. It is the nature of prem that whoever has a loving relationship with Krishna thinks, I don't have even a whiff of love for Krishna. When the Lord spoke Trinadapi, humility swelled. There is no difference between humility and love. And then it's saying in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when prem ripens, humility appears along with it. When the girls of Gokul were separated from Krishna, when he left Vrindavan, they showed the very limits of humility, simultaneously as the limits of prem. And the topmost limit of humility is in Sri Radha. And this humility of Radha is what Mahaprabhu was tasting for his final 12 years in the Gambhira. Devotion itself must be flowing, it must be dynamic. The quality of love must be growing. It can never be static. In order, what propels the love is a sense that I don't actually have any love. And I gave you the example from Srila Gurudev, that he was once asked a question, oh Gurudev, how can I tell if my Sambandha Gyan is growing in relationship to Guru? And Gurudev responded, he said, if one is always feeling deep, deep gratitude, but never feeling that he is doing sufficient to please his Guru Maharaj. You never feel that it's sufficient what I've done. There always has to be more. This wanting more is the current that will drive the river of prema. So this humility is always giving me strength to that current, because I never think I have sufficient. Even Sri Radha, she never thinks she has sufficient love for Krishna. She's looking deeper and deeper and deeper, endlessly, infinitely deeper, to find a deeper way, more satisfying way to please her lover. And Krishna is simultaneously doing the same thing. This is the nature of prema, the current of prema. It's always energetic, it's always ecstatic, it's never static, it's always flowing. This is the nature of prema. And we are hoping that this current is very quickly going to come in my heart if I follow this process that is given by Mahaprabhu here in these verses. He's giving a very clear ladder. That second verse is understanding my anarthas. This third verse is coming quickly to that place of nishta. This fourth verse is experiencing some ruchi. What types of ruchi? Don't get caught in just tasting our own brilliance. I've known some speakers speak in front for many months to people, and I've been aware that they're just tasting their brilliance of their own mind, or their own knowledge, their own understanding. It can be very tasty. When that illumination starts to come through from the soul, it's very enjoyable. And if you just get caught in only tasting that, rather than actually empathizing with those that you're trying to share it with or give it to, that's a big trap. You know, you stay on a lower stage. Then from this stage of ruchi in this verse, tomorrow it's the stage of asakti. And then from asakti, we come to bhav. And then from bhav, we come to a separation mood. Without the separation, the height of the union is not as extreme. It's the separation that intensifies the height, just like when Krishna left the gopis. He intensified them, made them so mad, to such a pitch of madness. They were asking the bushes, the trees, have you seen Krishna? Oh, you're not answering us, you don't love us. Then they think, oh, the deer, he seems to be leading us to him. Then after some time the deer just wanders off. Oh, the deer doesn't even love us. They're in complete bewilderment. This divyan mad, this like madness in love, it's intensified to such a degree by the separation. So when Krishna reappears, that sweetness is even more high. This is its nature, this is the equation. This is how it's all working with this separation and meeting, separation and meeting. It's going higher, it's ever flowing, it's this ecstatic, this dynamic current. It's the nature of love itself. It has to be progressive. In our own practice, our own sadhana, we want to connect with that strength of purpose. Each day we should pray to wake up in the morning and just think, wow, I have a whole 24 hours in front of me to chant Hare Krishna. I have a whole day in front of me to enter into these scriptures. I have a whole day to take the mercy of the dust on my head and put it in my heart in Vrindavan. I have the whole day to perform these activities. There's no other impediment. If that's our desire, this is the point. If our desire is not intense enough, then we'll be thinking of all lower, activities to do. Oh, I have to do this and I have to do that and I don't really want to do it, but I have to do it. It's almost like we're coming under control of a lower influence. Whereas if our desire becomes intensified, yes, I just want to do this. This is with my heart and soul all I want to do. Just today I received a mail from a friend in England, and he was telling me all I really want to do is come. Because they put this class on the internet, and he was watching, he was saying, oh, all I want to do is come and sit by the Jamuna and hear Shikshastakam and be with all the devotees. And he's sitting in raining, freezing cold England. And I said, come straight away. I said, we can make a space for you immediately. What's the problem? All you have to do is desire strongly enough to come. And he wrote back and said, well, you know, I've got my family, this and that, and I actually got to do all these different things. And then I wrote back straight away and said, you know, when Lord Indra was cursed to be a pig, and Lord Brahma, he came and said, you know, you can come back now to be the king of heaven. He said, no, I have my wet stool here, my dry stool, my warm stool, I have all my wives, I have my children, my grandchildren. Why would I want to go to heaven and be the king? Do they have nice stool in heaven? So it's kind of like that. We develop these lower attachments so that we can't find these deeper attachments. But we should look in our own hearts and see what is our desire. If it is our desire to genuinely make progress, we have to very carefully hear what our beloved Gurudev has given to us. What are his directions? Well, how has he directed us in this life? I can remember in my own personal life more than 15, 16, 17 times Gurudev has said directly to me, just do bhajan in this life. From bhajan, everything else will manifest successfully. If you want to write books, if you want to edit, if you want to audit, if you want to do any activity, you will do it 1,000 times better if you have a strength of bhajan initially in your day. If you're packing boxes of books, for example, and you decide, well, today first I'm going to chant 32 rounds, it will guaranteed give you more intelligence and to do that service more expertly, with less botheration, and everything will be in so much order because the winds of the auspiciousness will actually arrange everything perfectly for us. It's a fact. I've seen it again and again and again. You just do the extra little bit of sadhana. It's not that, oh, I don't have time to chant another round. If you don't do like that, probably the act is going to be influenced by the mode of passion. And what happens when it's influenced by passion? It probably will go wrong. There might be a mistake and you have to do it again. It ends up by taking twice as long. It's true, it's true, it's true what I'm saying. I know it's true. I've tested it so many times. In the heat of the moment, all of a sudden we're supposed to do this and this and this, and I haven't chanted properly, and the whole thing becomes disastrous. If I'd just been more self-controlled and had more of a taste and had more presence of mind, that activity would have been successful in a moment. And then we do have more time for our sadhana bhajan. Well, bhajan is doing our service simultaneously. Srila Gurudev has said, of course it's our service by taking care of the books and doing so many. This is our bhajan, no doubt. But how to perceive it as our bhajan without taking to this process of nam. Without an infusion of nam, our consciousnesses are going to be duller. I said at the very beginning of this meeting we're having together, maybe 1 week ago, if you first wake up in the morning, before you do anything, just chant 5 mantras and see the effect on the consciousness, where it takes you. So many devotees told me that they felt so much more connected to the spiritual potency immediately. Huh? Sorry? 5, just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Just 5 of, actually even 3 of those. Even 2 is enough to carry us across material consciousness. It's a phenomenon. We've just come out of the darkness of Tamagun, and we influence the mind with this powerful spiritual experience. As soon as we open our eyes, then the next acts of brushing the teeth and everything else that we have to do are seen in a different way. It's a fact, it's true. Huh? Also, yes. Specifically, in our Shikshastakam consideration, it's talking about Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. The Jayadvani prayers, of course, are included in that Nam. It's glorifying those personalities who have taken Nam. But just to show the power of Nam by itself, we can just say those mantras. And of course, if you say the Premadvani too, so many prayers. Immediately if you say a string of, you're hooked in already. The idea of what I'm saying is to connect with that energy rather than, oh, my poor old back's aching. Oh God, today I have to do this, and today I have to do this, and all these different various material considerations. How else are we going to build our faith? Just like this faith that Sri Radha has, Vishvasa, she has such absolute faith that Krishna must break my man. Krishna will break my man. He must. This gives her such freedom. And Krishna, he loves that. How else can they go deeper? How else can this stage of bhav and anubhav manifest in these higher stages of affection? So see this Shikshastakam as a opening up, a blossoming of this flower of prema, how it's rolling through these different verses, these different stages of bhakti, and it's going through my different experiences. Like if I'm beginning to purify these desires. Yesterday we were trying to find the power of humility. Today I'm trying to focus on my desires. What desires can I purify? If I'm praying to please Nam, help me purify these lower tendencies and desires in my heart, Nam will reciprocate, of course. Oh, interesting point, that the devotee, if he's practicing carefully, Yoga Maya will cover that devotee to keep his own glorious nature a little bit hidden from him. It's like a Mahabhagavat or an Uttam Bhagavat. It's not when he's 7 or 8 years old he's thinking, oh, you know, I'm an Uttam Bhagavat. He's not thinking like that. He's not even thinking like that at the time of his sadhan bhajan. He's always thinking that I have to do more. Krishna keeps the light of our purity a little bit covered so that we won't become proud, so that we will be able to keep this progressive mood. This is the kindness of Krishna. It's saying that the Lord does not let the Sadhak Vaishnava know this fact, otherwise his humility will be lost. So this is also a point. And then we see in the Bhagavatam these prayers of Vritrasura. Gurudev has described these beautiful prayers of Vritrasura are the beginning of a mood of how the gopis feel towards Krishna. Because he's saying there's one prayer where it's describing... He's describing these 3 types of love. I have to read it from here because I don't know this verse so well. The verse is Ajata Paksha Iva Matram Kaga Stanyam Yata Vatsatara Shudarata Priyam Priyeva Viyusitam Visana Manara Ravindaksha Vritrikshate Tvam. And this Vritrasura, you know Vritrasura, the demon. Originally he was Chitraketu Maharaj. And one day he was flying through the airwaves and he saw Parvati was sitting on the lap of Shivji, naked. And he thought it was kind of humorous, because all around Shivji were great exalted sages, and they were all listening to his Harikatha. And Parvati, his wife, was sitting naked on his lap, and he thought this was amusing in a very sublime, beautiful way. And he laughed, he smiled as his plane was going past there. And Parvati, she took offense to that and she cursed him to take birth as a demon. Lord Shiva was very unhappy with her doing that because he knew the great nature of Chitraketu Maharaj, being a great pure devotee. But nevertheless, Chitraketu Maharaj, he took that curse on his head very happily, whatever Krishna arranges. So he took the form of that demon, Vritrasura, and that demon was 12-mile high giant. And when the demigods were fighting the demons, Vritrasura was attacking Indra very strongly. And the demigods became very afraid that Vritrasura, he will defeat us. And they went to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma told them, oh, you go to Dadichi, and you ask him for his body, and from his body you fashion a thunderbolt. He's performed great austerities, and his body is very powerful. If you ask him for his body, then he will give it. He's not attached. So they went to ask Dadichi for his body, and Indra, he promised all sorts of heavenly pleasures, and Dadichi didn't want to hear at all. He said, oh, this is completely bogus. I don't want any of these benedictions. And then he said, yes, I will give you my body, what you want. The bones from his body, not his body, sorry, his bones. So then he covered his body with sugar or honey, and then a cow licked all the body away until there was just the bones left. And then the demigods took those bones and fashioned them into a very powerful thunderbolt. And then with this thunderbolt, Indra, he attacked Vritrasura. And he couldn't defeat Vritrasura. And he became very morose. He attacked Vritrasura at one point with a great club. He threw his mighty club, and Vritrasura easily with his left hand caught it. And then he threw it back at Eravrata, his elephant, which smashed him on the head and pushed him back like half a mile practically. And the elephant was vomiting blood and so on. Indra fell off, and he became very discouraged in his fight with Vritrasura. Then Vritrasura, he began to chastise Indra. What sort of, nishta do you have? You're supposed to kill me. Get up, rise up, in a very courageous, beautiful way. And eventually Indra, he got up. But during those prayers, Vritrasura is speaking about the sweetness of the Lord. And he's saying in this prayer, he said, O lotus-eyed Lord, as baby birds whose wings are not yet grown always look for their mother to return to feed them. This is one type of love. The birds are waiting for the mother just so that they will be fed. They're squawking away, and as soon as mother comes back, they just want the food. So they're depending on the mother for food. What level of affection is that really in reality? And then he's saying a higher stage are small calves tied with ropes, await anxiously the time of milking when they will be allowed to drink the milk of their mothers. So there's a little closer connection there, because the calf is actually connecting with the mother's body, taking the milk, whereas the bird just takes whatever the mother has found outside and throws it into the baby's mouth. So we're seeing the degrees of love increasing. And then in the third example he gives, as the beloved whose lover is far away always longs for him to return and satisfy her in all respects, I always yearn for the opportunity to render direct service unto you. He's describing for Indra's benefit this understanding of what is pure love for the Lord. Indra is the king of the heavenly planets. His love is very often compromised by his enjoying spirit that takes place in Swagaloka. But here Vritrasura is showing such a high example by speaking these prayers in a mood of this third one, that even though the lover is far away, the lover is waiting for that lover to return in great anxiety. And as soon as that lover returns, that wife or paramour wants to serve that husband, wants to bring happiness to that soul. So this is a higher form of love. And Gurudev has described in this verse, this is like Sukadeva Goswami is touching, or he's remembering the love of the gopis for Krishna. So these are some thoughts on this verse. But I describe... Yes. He wasn't asking for anything. He was asking for just to be devoted to the Lord, life after life after life. This was his desire. Because the verse prior to this is when he's saying, I don't even want control over the whole world. These things from this verse that we're discussing now, he's gone past that. He doesn't want any of those things. He has no desire for wealth or fame, or even if he's given kingship of the world, or even the post of Lord Brahma. He doesn't want that. That's the verse prior to the verse I just read. And this verse I just read is showing what he does want. He wants that love, that final love of the lover to the beloved, waiting, hankering in that separation mood, waiting for the lover to return. This is what he actually wants. You know, none of this is difficult to understand, is it? Because the heart wants love more than it wants anything else. You know, if someone offers you so much wealth and facility, is that sweeter than a deeply affectionate relationship with Guru or with Vaishnavas? Do we want love or money, so to speak, you know? So many people in the world today, they have so much resource, but they're so unhappy, they're so sad. One famous rock and roller, I remember him saying that fame is like an empty room. You get really famous in the world, and then you go home at night, there's no one there. It's just like an empty room. You know, it doesn't have any juice. There's no sweet, because it's always about you. It's not about the other person. The devotee wants to be inspired for that relationship. Relationship must be two. Love itself is a verb. To love. To love somebody. To love something. It can't just... These desires here, fame, wealth, adoration, distinction, followers, they're all about us. They're not about the object, are they? It's not about relationship. It's just a self-indulgent sort of experience or taste, isn't it? That's what it is. It's just the false ego getting some more reassurance that it is the material body. You know, it's reinforcing the illusion. That's all those desires are actually doing. But the sweetness that all of us long for, every living entity longs for, if they will only acknowledge it, is a loving relationship. Even a tiny little pig on the street wants to have a relationship with its mother. Even a little puppy dog, anybody, every living entity in their heart, it's the nature of the soul to want to have this relationship. We look for it in the material realm because we haven't known about the access to the spiritual world to have it full-blown. For the devotee, it's not so easy because we haven't met Krishna, and yet we're told about this sweet relationship with Krishna, and yet perhaps my heart is still hankering or contaminated by a desire for some sort of material relationship here. This can be purified itself by Guru. This can be purified itself. That desire even can be purified by Nam. Nam can excite us much more than any material relationship can. It can always carry the consciousness to a higher place. It's so sweet. It can take us deep into these scriptures. Do you believe me? Is it true? Is it true? Or not? Okay. I haven't let you say very much today, have I? I've just been talking and talking. Do you have anything to say? Anybody? Yes. Yeah. Yes. The first two verses of this bhajan, Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya, are exactly these 4 lines of this third verse, Trinadapi Sunichena. Even he's saying in that second verse of this Gurudev Kripa Bindu Diya, that when these qualities become manifest, then I will have a taste for the holy name. This taste is what is coming in this verse. This taste will come, and because the taste is coming, the lower mundane desires for self-adoration will be purified. Is it true? It takes a long time. Might take lifetimes. Might take a moment. We have to be filled with hope. But if we know what it is that we're hoping for, it can manifest much more quickly. If we don't really know what to hope for, how can it really manifest? It's like if you don't know what to ask for, like at the beginning of this bhajan that she's talking about, Gurudev Kripa Bindadiya, it's asking for mercy. What type of mercy? What do you want? If you come to Gurudev and say, oh Gurudev, give me your mercy, look at you and say, what do you want? What mercy do you want? Find it. Look for it in your heart, and so you can say, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. Then he can give you very easily. But if it's all vague and not clear, how can he really bestow? He may give some influence of strength, etc. But if you know exactly what to... It's like when we come in front of Vrindadevi on the parikram. I always know that Vrindadevi will bestow any desire immediately. Very, very easily she will bestow it, especially in Kamyavan. But when we go there with 1,000-strong parikrama, it's very crowded and easy to forget what it was you came to ask. So personally, I always make a little list before I go, so I can stand it, so I can remember what it is that because you can get all pushed around and so on because it's so congested in front of her. But she will bestow all those desires. What is the desire we want? We might just say flippantly, oh, I want Krishna Prem. What does Krishna Prem mean? It means my attraction to Krishna. What is the degree of my attraction to Krishna today? What is the degree of my attraction to Sri Radha today? Have I understood the sweetness of Krishna's love that Radha is experiencing through the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? It goes on and on and on. It's like catching a horse and riding it, staying in the saddle. Okay, I've kept you all long enough. It's 9:30. Thank you very much for coming. But try and have some more questions. You're not a very talkative group. Maybe I don't give you much chance to speak. I much prefer to hear, how much you've understood, because I don't know if I'm just talking and how much has actually, what is your qualification, your various I do japa retreats regularly, but we have one dynamic in the retreat that makes it very simple. Every night we all sit around in a circle. There's maybe about 20, 25 people. And I have Srila Gurudev's socks. And each person takes the socks and they speak 4 or 5 minutes about their various realizations of the day. And each person will speak. So I get to know everyone's sort of level and who they are, and I don't even know the names of half of you. So we're talking about relationship. There must be relationship between the speaker and the hearer for actually something to compute in the heart. Sanatana Goswami describes this. So we have this exchange every night. It's very sweet. We do this for 3 days, where everyone is allowed just to speak their own hearts, whatever they're feeling, through the effect of chanting much more, because we make an environment where you can chant 64 rounds very easily if you want to, in these retreat locations. We have beautiful places where we go. And then after 3 days, everyone has to speak a Krishna pastime, a Vrindavan pastime hopefully, or a Mahaprabhu pastime, or a Gurudev pastime. So everyone begins to tell all these pastimes every night. So there's a much more wider scope for relationship amongst the devotees. We get to know each other. We get to hear each other speak every night. And we're only speaking about Krishna Katha or Radha Katha. So therefore our relationships are building in a very pure way. And it becomes very invigorating to speak when we get to know, we get familiar with everybody. But maybe I've been speaking too much, haven't given you a chance to speak or ask any questions, but anyway. Huh?
Because it's so nicely and so much flavor. Nice.
Yeah, but I have to know how much you're understanding. Because if you don't understand anything that I've said, honestly, I'm ready to say it 20 times. I understand, at least understand, perhaps not realize, but I do understand everything that I'm saying to you. And I'm ready to go over it 25 times if it's necessary for you to catch that same experience, you know, and pleasure that I have in going into these subject matters. I want you to have the same experience. Ramji. In the Bhagavatam, there's even a painting of it. If you see the Bhagavatam, I think it's the 6th canto. Okay. I will check it personally. Not that I don't trust you, but I'll check it personally. Perhaps I made a mistake.
What did he say?
He's saying that it was Lord Shivji who was naked and Parvati was dressed.
Right.
So, I just have to look at the picture before I fully prostrate myself to you and apologize, okay? But let me see the picture first. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Could you say the progression of love in the spiritual world? I don't think I got confused when you were saying.
Sneha. In Braj or in Dwarka or in Mathura. Sneha pranaya. Then is man. And then again is pranaya, more condensed. But it's still called the same pranaya. And then is rag, anurag, then bhav, then rudha, adi rudha, modan, mohan, madan. Different types of bhav. After Adiruddha. Modan, then Mohan. Mohan is a separation mood. And then Madan. Yeah. Yeah, now it's 25 to 10. I'm not going to keep you much longer. Elaborate on what? Yeah. Yes. 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 Beautiful. Yes. 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 This evening we will go. She's commenting that the different names of Krishna that are mentioned are progressively sweeter and sweeter as the whole 8 verses are unfolding. Yes. Adiruddha, yes. He's tasting Radha's joy of Madanakya Mahabhav. This is how it's described. I was listening to Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj last night. He's saying that Mahaprabhu experiences this Madanakya Mahabhav of Sri Radha in the very final stages of his manifest pastimes. This is why he came, to experience these 3 moods. Otherwise his desires wouldn't be fulfilled. He can't experience that as the Vishaya. He can only experience it as the Ashraya, as Mahaprabhu. So he... Huh? Yes. 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 It's true. Huh?
Madanaki is the same as Madan.
Yes, yes. Madanakya Mahabhav. Yes. And you can say Mohan, Bhav, Modan, Bhav, Madanakya Mahabhav. Yes.
When you mentioned Prem Kutila, where is
Prem Kutila.
where is that? I thought that was part of it.
No, Prem Kutila is... It's like there's a separate description written about the crookedness of love, because that can apply in other stages. But in principle, in that stage of man, then that, or pranaya rather, this very, very intimate state, then this crookedness will manifest. I described to you yesterday how Sri Radha will never say to Krishna, "Oh, I love you." She will more likely say, "Why are you here? What are you doing here?" It'll be like contrary, Vamya.
So is it a type of denial?
It develops from pranaya, but it's not a separate stage, because it goes through right the way up to Madanakya Mahabhav. Still that same type of behavior is there. Jagadananda Pandit, he's written one very beautiful book called Prema Vivart. And in this Prema Vivart, it's all about this crooked behavior. Jagadananda Pandit, in his own relationship with Mahaprabhu, was exhibiting this crookedness of behavior. Okay? Why are you asking all so many questions now? It's time of the year. Go ahead. Huh?
You said it's very important to understand these different stages of praying.
Yes.
In order for us to understand
Of the which verse? Yes, okay. Well, it's important to understand these stages in love. Without understanding these stages of love, how can you ever give up these lower desires? This is the Swarup Lakshan of the verse. Without understanding, the higher taste, the sweetness. This is why I began to describe the sweetness of Radha's love for Krishna today, just to try and show the positive aspect or the positive alternative. It's not about the negative, our path. It's about the positive conclusion. But we need to know what is that nivritti, that negative part. That must be there also. Okay? Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo, Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo, Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo, Jai Jai Radha. Oh Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo, Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo, Jai Jai Radha Ramana Haribo.